My boyfriend and I just moved in together and I'm starting to resent him. What should I do? Hey everyone, I could really use some advice because I feel like I'm going crazy, and I don't know if I'm overreacting or if this is a real problem. For context, I, 22F, just moved into my first apartment a couple of months ago. My boyfriend, 24M, moved in with me shortly after, and at first, everything was great. We've been together for a while and I thought living together would bring us closer, but lately, I've been feeling more and more resentful. The biggest issue is that I feel like I'm doing everything. I do all the cleaning, dishes, grocery shopping, and general household management. I also work full-time, so I don't understand why all the responsibility falls on me. I've brought it up multiple times and he always says he'll do better, but nothing changes. Sometimes he'll wash a dish or take out the trash after I ask, but it never seems to occur to him on his own. It's not just the chores, though. I feel like he's starting to take me for granted. Before we moved in, he was really sweet, always texting me cute things, planning dates, and making me feel appreciated. Now it's like we just exist in the same space, and he barely puts in effort. He spends a lot of time on his computer or watching YouTube, and I feel like I'm just there. I don't expect constant attention, but it sucks feeling like I'm more of a roommate than a girlfriend. I don't know what to do. I love him, and I don't want to break up over something that feels like it should be fixable. But every time I try to talk about it, he either gets defensive or says he'll change, and then nothing happens. Am I overreacting? How do I get through to him without sounding like I'm nagging? Or is this a sign that we just aren't compatible living together? Husband thinks I cheated. My husband has an audio recording of me while he was gone. He is convinced that he hears me cheating on him in the recording. I know I did not do the things he said I did. He keeps listening to the recording and making me listen to it. I can't hear what he is hearing. This is ruining our marriage. Is this cheating? I, M19, have been with my GF, F19 for about 2 years. We live together and things have been going really great. We don't go through each other's phones, but lately she's been acting weird, so I checked her phone. Now, about a week ago, I saw a notification from Snapchat from a guy, and his name on there was very basic, like it had been changed. So I asked, and she said that she thought she knew him but didn't and wasn't really talking to him. But when I checked her phone, he is her #1 best friend and have a 3-month streak. I want to share on social media that my wife cheated on me. Should I? I caught my wife cheating this evening. I posted earlier, and I want my family and friends to know. I speak to most of them through Facebook. I really want to out her because she should be ashamed, or at least embarrassed. She doesn't want me to because she's worried about how it may make her look. I say screw her. Why should I think of her when she wasn't thinking of me while she was cheating? She's so mad she got caught, or is my mind going mad? So I showed up at my girlfriend's house, and right away, shit was odd. Her doors was locked, it never is. I'm knocking, and nothing. So she jumped in the shower. 1 hour later, she opened the door. She was just acting weird if something was off, but I couldn't figure it out. So I left my phone on to record audio, and this is what was recorded. I know what I heard. I wish I hadn't, but I did. My mom had an affair and my dad found out. Context. I'm a 21-year-old male, and my mom has been living at a friend's house they let, and it's been under the guise of needing time to work on herself and fix her own mental health. My mom, 52F, moved out in November last year. She travels a lot with work, and one morning came into my room crying, saying she's going away for a bit to try and sort things out. I knew they weren't in the best place, so this sucked, but didn't come as much of a surprise. In January, she came back for my dad's birthday, 55 and everything seemed normal again. We went out for dinner, watched TV together, and caught up, and it was nice. A couple days later, she left again back to her friend's place. She said to me that it was too soon and that she still needed more time. Fast forward to last night, and she's come back for good, is what she said. My guess is she told the man she's been seeing that she wants to end it, and he shows up at our house while my dad is there. And he's had his suspicions for a while now, and an unknown man pulling up outside the house to speak to my mom and driving off when he came outside was the last straw. It ended with dad spending a night in the police station for safeguarding reasons. No physical abuse or anything, but lots of shouting and anger, which was definitely justified. They've been together 25 years, and it seems this affair went on for about 4 months. Frankly, I've always been able to deal with negative things. My family has suffered quite well. But this is a different level, and I have zero clue what to do. I'm a very private person, so speaking out on a public forum comes unnaturally to me. I'm spending a week at a friend's on the other side of the country to think through and process everything. Obviously, I love both my mom and dad very much, and naturally, it's reasonable to side with my dad. However, mom is the person that's always been there for me. I got on with my dad, but always felt a bit closer to her, which makes it worse. AITA for not giving my coworker a ride after he didn't spot me $1 at the vending machine. I usually give my coworker a ride on the way back from work, usually driving 5 miles out of my way per day to drop him off at his place because he doesn't have a car. I've been doing that for about 2 years now and haven't asked for anything, and he has never offered. Yesterday, I was at the vending machine and wanted a soda. I was short $1 and had left my wallet in my car. I would usually go get my wallet, but it takes forever to wait for the elevators at my workplace, so I asked if he could spot me $1 for the soda. He straight up refused and said, "Just use your own money, man. I don't really give money to friends or coworkers, sorry." I was taken aback by that comment because I've probably spent well over $1,500 in gas over the past 2 years for this guy, and he can't even spot me $1 just this once? I got pretty upset by that, and once it hit 5, I told him I'm not giving him free rides anymore. He seemed upset and said I was petty. AITA? AT for finally telling my brother-in-law to leave after he's been mooching off us for a year. He moved in saying he just needed a few months until he was able to save enough money to rent his own place. It's been a year, but he's never once paid for bills, groceries, nothing. He doesn't even do basic chores, but my wife, she's his brother, always tries to cover for him and does his chores for him instead. He leaves dishes in the sink, doesn't take out the trash, just sits around on his phone when he's at home to play mobile games, or goes out on his motorcycle to go on long rides with his buddies. We've been biting our tongues because he's family, but last week was the last straw. He came home late, parked his bike, and didn't lock the gate. As a result of his neglect, our dog of 12 years got out. We searched everywhere and even made Facebook posts, only to find out a few hours later that he got hit by a car just outside our subdivision. We were devastated and I was very furious. But guess who was the one acting pissed off? My Bill, saying it wasn't his fault and that shit happens and that he'd just buy us a new dog. LOL. He hasn't even contributed a single cent to our monthly electric or internet bills. I lost it. Told him to pack his stuff and get out. My wife thinks I was too harsh, but I honestly don't care anymore. He doesn't respect our home, our rules, or our damn dog. AITA for not considering my wife's feelings first. A part of me feels that we should have talked about it first, but then I acted on my own out of anger. AITA? Spill your family drama. 2 stories. I have 2 older half-sisters, one of whom is married. Upon getting married, in addition to having my 2 beautiful nieces, my sister and her husband decide to start swinging. In case you don't know what that means, it means having sex with other couples and people. Group sex. And boy did she and her fucking husband love to talk about it with whomever would listen. I'm talking full disclosure on blowjobs and anal sex, the whole deal. They only talked about it for a couple days, before they realized they were being grossly inappropriate at our family Sunday night dinners. They bring themselves and their kids to Grandma's house, where I was living at the time, every Sunday for a nice dinner. To be fair, they didn't talk about these things at dinner, but rather when they could corner one person before or after dinner, and certainly after a few glasses of wine. Either way, fast forward to present day, and my sis and her hubby now have hubby's best friend, living with them, and they engage in some sort of group sex activity. I remain in truly blissful ignorance as to the details, but I do know both hubby and hubby's best friend have unprotected sex with my sis. They both have vasectomies and are assumed infertile. You might know where this is going. So sis gets pregnant. They don't know who the father is. That's my craziest family drama, and it is ongoing. My aunt was married several times, 5 or 6, I believe. One of her husbands was a man we'll call George. During her marriage to George, her daughter and son lived with her. We'll call the daughter Chrissy. Chrissy and George got along great when Chrissy was a teenager. Nobody thought anything of it until my aunt came home from work and caught them in bed together. I was told Chrissy was 18 at the time, but it's likely this happened when she was 17 and everyone just wanted to keep it from turning into a legal issue. Either way, Chrissy became pregnant with her stepfather's baby, and my aunt divorced him. Chrissy and George were then married and raised a family together. I believe Chrissy ended up divorcing him too. Several years later, my aunt once again found herself at the center of family drama when she fell in love with her married second cousin and began having an affair with him while his wife was sick and dying of cancer. At the wife's funeral, they were seen cuddling and being handsy, to a point where the man's own sister boxed his ears in front of everyone and told him to act right. They were married a couple of years later. They're still married. Out of all her marriages, this one has lasted the longest, at least 30 years at this point. Have I been getting cheated on? My girlfriend of 3 years, who moved across the country with me for college, and I have been having some issues lately, just arguments and whatnot. She's been considering going home for summer and not re-enrolling for school with me, which I understand being far from home, etc. Over Christmas break, she went out with her girlfriends while we had an argument, went clubbing one night, and next night went to the movies with her girlfriend, her BF and another dude, very double date like I know, and grabbed dinner after. I expressed then after she finally texted me back how I didn't like that, felt very double date-like and disrespectful. She understood, said it wasn't a double date, but with clubbing, admitted she went in with a single mindset. UTF, fast forward. We get past that. Last night, she's over at my place, drunk, dozing off on my couch. Her friends text her, and she asks me what she said, so I read it to her. But on Snap, the most recent snap was a selfie of her and that dude from the double date, but in a car TG during daylight, meaning must a different hangout. The next morning, I asked her about it. She admitted to having gone out to lunch with him over spring break, like 2 weeks ago, but that she didn't feel like it was a date, but that he did. She also denied the fact that they've stayed in communication the whole time. But how TF do you not talk and pick up a date in a week you're home after months of not talking? I think it's all adding up in my head, but admittedly, I'm not sure if it's just me. Prior to this, I genuinely thought she was the one and wouldn't ever do anything like this. Am I crazy? My dad just called his new wife, his app, my mom's name. So for some context, my 17 mom, 46, and dad 46 met in college, started as friends. Mom rejected him a few times before finally dating and getting married and having my older brothers, 21 and 20, and then me. 4 years ago, he cheated on her with his coworker, 28, Emily, and then got married. Therefore, I am still forced to stay with them on weekends until I turn 18 next year. I also need to add that I do not like Emily and never have. Recently, ever since my mom had reconnected with her friend from college, they would have gotten together if he didn't move to Switzerland, giving my dad the chance he returned cause of his mom being sick. He is also divorced, and when catching up with my mom, they started seeing each other, and that made my dad's relationship go south. He keeps asking me about my mom every chance he gets, and that is pissing Emily off. So recently, he was drunk and miserable, and when Emily tried to help him go to bed, he went on hugging her, calling her my mom's name, which made her mad, and she pushed him. The next morning, I woke up with them fighting, and when my mom came to pick me up, he tried to compliment my mom, and she shut him down. Now, each time I go to their house, I make it a point to compliment my mom with her new partner, and this makes them even more mad. To make it better, they began sleeping separately, and my mom is glowing. It's been years, but it still bugs me. I came across this family group, and I had a huge blow-up years ago with my older sister that I still think about. My sister is 14 years older, and when I graduated college, I moved back to my home state to be close to family. My sister, let's call her Sam, who was 40th at the time, owned a townhouse, but she bought a bigger house with her partner Jay before she sold the townhouse. I moved into the townhouse and started paying Sam rent. After a few months, Sam came to me and stated she wanted to sell her house in spring because of the housing market. I said okay, and moved into with my parents to save some money. Sam expressed how she was struggling financially, and I'm not even sure how this happened, but I ended up continuing to pay her rent despite not living there. It went on for months, and I struggled to pay bills and save anything. Finally, I sat down and did a full monthly budget with my living expenses, bills, rent, the cost of a storage unit for my furniture, and what I was pitching in to help my parents. Not like paying rent, but because I was living there, and that made things like their water bill go up, I gave them some money every month. It ended up that I was actually paying a lot more than just renting a place. I told Sam I could no longer pay rent. I actually offered to pay 1 to 2s of what I was paying up until this point, and she lost it. She screamed, yelled, and told me I was only her sister when it was convenient for me. We didn't speak for a long time, and I stopped paying full stop, but I could never understand her perspective. To this day, things are okay but have never gone back to the way they were before. If anything about this situation is brought up, she very much acts like the victim and says underhanded things, making me out to be selfish and delusional. I'm still miffed by the whole thing. Rough family. Context. The whole side of my wife's family can never take responsibility for pushing boundaries set. My wife's parents moved in with us recently because they lost their house, so we gave them 4 simple rules, a pretty sweet deal. Rule 1, all your stuff downstairs granny flat and buy your own food. Rule 2, at least one of you has to work but you don't pay bills. Rule 3, no hitting the kids and try not to yell at them. Rule 4, your friends are okay but no Joe or Sally, pretty sweet deal, right? After week 2, my wife's mom hit our child right in front of me because she misheard what I said. I lectured her. Week 4, they let Sally into our house to pick up money, but they had beers for an hour. For context, Rob and Sally aren't allowed here due to hard drugs and stealing. Sally 2 years ago stole from my 9-year-old son a hat, then lied to my face when I addressed it, refusing to give the hat back. This was enough for me to ban her from seeing our kids. Sally is my grandma-in-law, you could say. Is it wrong of me that I lectured them saying no, she can't come here after the fact? A huge fight happened with my wife's mom and husband saying, we don't like being treated like children. Husband, they were just picking up money. Not true. She's my sister, dude. Me saying if you don't like the simple rules, you don't have to live here, you can move out if you want, grandma. But those are my babies too. Deflection onto the kids, meet a husband. If you want to see her, you can always go to her place. I respect the husband a bit more because he did apologize after. But the grandma said, fuck you, those are my kids too. Am I the asshole here for setting clear boundaries to protect my children from certain adults? Sister-in-law got uninvited to my daughter's birthday party. My sister-in-law was uninvited from my daughter's birthday party. She has 4 kids, 3 from her current marriage. The oldest, 12, still doesn't know. She was my daughter's daycare provider when I returned to work in 2023. We had disagreements, especially over car seat safety, discipline, and my daughter's discomfort around her cousins. Despite compromises like allowing her to spank my daughter, she abruptly told us to find new daycare in November. Later, she pulled her kids from school to homeschool them. We didn't see much of them until my daughter's birthday. We set the date early, but 2 days before, she said they'd only come for cake and gifts, fearing illness. Since we had to pay per child, we asked them not to come if they weren't staying. She got upset but later admitted bribing her kids to play since they lacked social interaction. Recently, during a visit with grandma, my daughter was playing happily until her cousins arrived. They hugged her tightly, took her toys, and the 7-year-old forced her off a tricycle. She ended up with a handprint on her arm from the rough hugging. I'm hurt, but I still have to see them again. Am I overreacting? I was with someone for 2 years. He had a fiancé, which I did know about. Should I tell the girl or should I tell the girl's family? I was seeing someone for almost 2 years. We were not committed. I always had an impression that we both loved each other, and it will never work out because how different we are. He always have told me he loves me a lot. We ended things almost a year ago because he was moving back to our home country. His and my home country are same, but we met in a foreign country. He always told me he is single. A month ago, he got married now to a girl, let's call her Liz. I recently came to that he and Liz were engaged even before me and him met. We met in AUG 2022, and they both were engaged in March 2022. He exactly knows how lies hurt me. Once jokingly, I don't know why, but I said to him, if I ever find out that you were cheating on someone with me, I will deliver all of our chats and other proofs to your doorstep. I always thought we are not together because how we both are headstrong and so different from each other, and it's better to not to be together because this was the discussion we had several times and I agreed to. One part of me doesn't want to believe that 2 years is a lie, and exposing him will stain the best memories of my life and the guy will hate me forever. The other part of me wants to tell the girl's family, and not only to the girl because he can manipulate her very easily. If family is involved, he can't do that. Let me know what are your thoughts. My friends cheat on their girlfriends. The title says it all. My friends just don't have the best actions when it comes to their girlfriends. One of my friends consistently cheats on his girlfriend and goes out of his way to do it in front of us. He recently fucked an escort in a club. The condom broke and he caught an STI. He's keeping it from his girlfriend, but I want to find a way to tell her that he's cheating anonymously. It just doesn't feel right, because she does so much for him while he's just out cheating. He's even been such a bad influence on one of my other friends. Friend 2 was always a good guy to the point where he truly simps over his girlfriend, but my other friend was such a bad influence he got my friend to fuck another escort in the same club. His girlfriend is pregnant and they're moving into together soon. I want to tell their girlfriends because this goes on constantly. Every time we go out, it's flirting with someone else, trying to fuck anything that moves, and just disregard for their girlfriends and other friends that go out with them. Am I the problem or my mom? We live 7 hours away from my mom. When my mom visited us when I was having my first baby, being induced due to cholestasis, ended in C-section. My mom has had 2 C-sections. She was staying at our place to watch our dog for us. I was thankful for her watching our dog, but when I came home from the hospital, I expected her to be nurturing. I had absolutely no sleep, didn't have a shower, felt like I was going to collapse walking through the door, and she was all hyped up. Decorated the apartment and was trying to have a pizza party and watch movies. She bought me a mug from Home Goods she tried to hand me when we walked in. And I told her I can't hold it. I feel like I'm going to collapse. I was so dizzy. I asked my husband to thaw my colostrum. That was in the freezer, so she could feed the baby while I slept some. Since I had 0 sleep in 5 days at the hospital. She saw it thawing in the sink and poured it down the drain. My husband told me and said she didn't know. I come out the room crying, telling her, how could you? She didn't say a word. I sobbed and my husband helped me into the bed to nurse the baby and pump. My mom was cold to me the rest of the time. Left at 5 a.m. the next morning. Since then, I never brought it up. So much was going on in my life I couldn't process it until months later. When I try to talk to her about other times in my life, I didn't feel loved or supported by her. She gets angry, very defensive, blames me and hangs up on me. So I am always hesitant to share my feelings with her. But I told her how I felt and it turned into an argument. She was defensive and told me I cussed her out. When she poured out my colostrum and I never cussed at her. She says I'm a mean person and being used by the devil to attack her. She says I am trying to put her down and condemn her. And how dare I because she has good intentions. And what's my point for bringing this up? What do you want, some kind of apology? I'm just hurt. I know she probably did have good intentions, but I just don't feel heard, seen, or supported by her. Only what's convenient for her. I feel like every time she hurts my feelings, I'm the bad guy if I don't just hold it in and sweep it under the rug. If I hurt her feelings or make her feel bad at all, by sharing my feelings, then I'm wrong. I just don't know how to handle this. She's now about to visit for my daughter's first birthday. And I'm scared it's going to be so tense and awkward because when she's upset with me, she makes it known with silent treatment, short rude tone, and passive-aggressive. I really don't want my daughter's first birthday to feel like that. If I'm the problem, how do I make this right? How can I cope and avoid the arguments and tension from happening? WIBTA for not going to my sister's wedding because her venue is not wheelchair accessible? My 24F sister, 30F, is getting married soon. I'm very happy for her, and there are no issues between the two of us. She really wanted to get married in a specific location, and she got it, which is great, but that location is pretty much not accessible to wheelchairs. I have a significant disability, paraplegia, and cannot move at all without a wheelchair, so going there would be tough. She told me that I could be carried up any stairs and then stay at the tables, but that's not something I'm comfortable with. Getting carried is very uncomfortable and dangerous, especially when done repeatedly by someone that isn't used to it, and I really don't want to have to be carried to the toilets at a wedding full of strangers. Or even worse, have an accident. Then I also wouldn't expect people to just sit with me while the celebrations are going on, but the idea of sitting there and watch for hours feels wrong, especially that after a few hours sitting hurts a lot and skin becomes a concern. But I wouldn't ask someone to leave the wedding just for me. I'm not upset about the fact that they picked that venue, it's their day, and I don't expect them to plan it based on my needs, but I also don't think she understands that it's not as easy as she thinks. There are so many things that could go very wrong. I intend to get them a nice gift and propose to maybe spend quality time together afterwards before. One of my cousins told me that it's just one day and that it's very important for my sister, so I should make an effort and get out of my comfort zone. But I feel like endangering my health isn't as simple as getting out of my comfort zone. So WIBTA for not going?